The wind howled across the barren plains of New Mexico, carrying with it the scent of dust, leather, and blood. The sun was sinking behind the hills, painting the sky in crimson and gold as a boy of barely 12 knelt beside his father's broken body. The old rancher, Thomas Grady, had been a man of quiet strength, a man who built his home with his own hands and treated every creature on his land with kindness. But that kindness didn't matter to the men who came riding that day, 6 cowboys, led by a ruthless outlaw named Clay Maddox. They accused Thomas of stealing cattle, but everyone knew it was a lie. They just wanted his land, the only piece of fertile valley within 50 miles. The boy Eli had watched from the shadows as they tied his father to a post, beating him while laughing, spitting and calling him names. Thomas refused to beg, even with blood in his mouth. He stared his tormentors down, defiant to his last breath. Before they left, Clay kicked the boy out of hiding and threw him into the dirt beside his father. "Watch this, kid," he said, cocking his revolver. "Man's land ain't worth dying for." "But yours just did." Then he pulled the trigger. That sound, that sharp crack of gunfire, would echo in Eli's ears for years to come. He lay in the dust all night, his father's lifeless hand gripping his sleeve. When dawn broke, he was gone, swallowed by the endless horizon. Years passed. The world forgot Thomas Grady. But Eli didn't. He wandered south, through deserts and mountains, living on whatever he could hunt or steal. He was taken in once by a trader who sold weapons to the Apache. The boy was wild, silent, and full of fire, and the Apache saw that. They didn't trust white men as Oi, but Eli wasn't one of the men who stole their lands or broke their treaties. He listened. He learned their language. He rode with them, hunted with them, fought beside them when soldiers came. As he grew into a man, his spirit hardened like the iron he learned to forge. The Apache named him Tasunk, meaning the horse that never breaks. And when he told them the story of his father's murder, of the land stolen and the blood spilled, the old chief, a warrior named Red Hawk, said, "A man's blood ties him to the earth. You were meant to return." By the time Eli was 25, he had become a warrior in every sense. The Apache didn't see him as an outsider anymore. They saw him as one of their own. And when word reached their camp that a rancher named Clay Maddox had become rich and powerful, owning every stretch of land for miles around, including the Grady Ranch, Eli knew it was time. At dawn, he rode out with 400 Apache warriors. The plains trembled beneath the thunder of their horses. The wind carried their war cries across the hills. The sun rose behind them like fire, casting long shadows over the land that had once been stolen from his bloodline. Clay Maddox was older now, slower, but still cruel. He had built himself a fine house where the Grady cabin once stood. When his men saw the dust rising on the horizon, they thought it was a storm until they heard the drums. Panic spread fast. Maddox barked orders, sending men to the fences, to the barns, to the rooftops, but it was useless. Eli rode at the front, his face painted with war marks, his father's old rifle strapped across his back. When he reached the ranch, he didn't draw his gun. He just sat on his horse and looked at the man who had taken everything from him. "Who the hell are you?" Maddox shouted, trying to mask his fear. Eli's voice was low, calm, and cold as steel. "I'm the boy who watched you kill his father." Maddox's eyes widened. You're dead. I left you there." "You should have made sure," Eli said. Then he raised his hand. The warriors behind him shouted as one, a roar that shook the ground. The attack began like lightning. The fight was short and brutal. Maddox's men scattered, some surrendering, others falling where they stood. Fire tore through the barns, smoke rising to the heavens. And through it all, Eli rode straight toward the house, his heart pounding like the drums of war. Inside, Maddox hid behind a desk, clutching a pistol. His hand trembled as Eli stepped through the door. "You took my father's life," Eli said. "You took his land. You left me with nothing but hate. Now I'm taking it back." Maddox fired first, but he was too slow. Eli's bullet found its mark, and the outlaw dropped to the floor, his hand still gripping the gun that had ended Thomas Grady's life. Eli stood over him, breathing hard, his chest rising and falling like the wind that once carried his father's last breath. When it was over, the warriors stood in silence as Eli walked outside. He looked over the valley, the same valley his father had loved. The air smelled of smoke and earth. For the first time in years, he felt peace. He knelt, scooped a handful of dust, and let it fall through his fingers. "It's done, Pa," he whispered. "Your land is free again." Then the Apache chief came to his side. "What will you do now, Tasunk?" Eli looked toward the horizon where the sun was setting behind the hills. "I'll rebuild, but not just for me, for all of us." And as the drums faded and the sky turned gold, the son of a rancher stood where his father had fallen, not as a boy full of pain, but as a man who had reclaimed his destiny.